Coming up on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show,
We're going to talk about microbiomes and what those are for your soil.
as well as ways to be more zero waste.
And we also have guest Megan Cain from Madison. She is an author, speaker, and all-around great garden enthusiast.
All that starts right now.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. Wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, whether through those stations, the Simple Radio app, the TuneIn app, the website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, or anywhere in between. We are live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am your host, Joy Baird. Beside me is my wife, best friend, co-host, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your destination year-round for now containing over 1,000 garden videos, short and long format, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and a whole lot more to help you be a better gardener.
Nasala Kombucha is the executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because if it's not Nasala Kombucha, it's not kombucha. Find out more at nasala.com.
We appreciate their sponsorship and the sponsors you'll hear throughout the program. And there's a number of ways in which you can contact us if you have a garden question or a comment, and that is...
That's the Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline. The Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields pruned and damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic and environmentally safe and organic. For more information, visit ivyorganics.com. That's 414-444-5250.
You can also send us an email at twvgradio@gmail.com at any time with your question. You can also tweet us using hashtag TWVG. If you do have a problem, a what is wrong with my fill in the blank, a photograph would be much appreciative, as we would be better to identify that problem, whether it's a garden problem, a canning problem, whatever that situation is. And we appreciate the support we have there. And we thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on this Saturday morning. Well, this past week, we were at West Allis for the third portion of, or the third series in the three-part series of our garden talks there, where we did, Holly did a basics of canning talk. And we want to welcome those individuals who are now listening to the program. We had a good turnout, had younger people there than we are normally accustomed to during your talks, which was very encouraging. Attendees.
Right, yeah, it was good attendance, good questions, very alert crowd.
Well, I mean, how often do you go to a garden talk or a automotive talk that you're grumpy because you didn't want to be there? You voluntarily came.
I think some people get dragged out of there.
I did this for you, you're doing this for me type of situation.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got two more talks that will conclude our speaking series for this year, and we'll have more next year. This Tuesday, September the 19th, we will be at Cedarburg.
And we'll talk about growing garlic.
At 6:30, Cedarburg Public Library, so you can see us there. And the conclusion will be this Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Brookfield Public Library, where we will talk about basics of canning.
And that's nice because our first talk this year was in Brookfield, and our last talk will be in Brookfield. So
that wasn't planned. That's just how it worked out.
Yeah.
So if you've got a location in which you would like us to talk about gardening, we can certainly start figuring that out for 2018. This year, with all of our talks, we had a total of 28 talks in 2017. So that's the most we've ever done, and we always look forward to trying to do more than the coming year. So with that being said, let's talk about something that we can start looking towards in our garden for 2018, and that's understanding and building the microbial life in our soil. Now, before we get too scientific in this, because some people just think you plant the seed and water it and it grows, which that's a certain understanding. That's a very elementary level of understanding of a plant's growth cycle. But let's go a little deeper. What is microbial life, and why and how does it benefit our gardens and the plants that we grow in it?
Right. So microbes are basically microorganisms. As we always talk about, there's good things in your soil and there's bad things in your soil. Microbes are good for your soil. And just like nutrients and things like that in your soil.
Now, microbes are not something you're going to dig a shovelful and go, oh, there's some microbes. It's not like worms.
No, it's not like worms. They are microscopic. since they're called microorganisms, so microscopic. And it's a generic term. It refers to a wide range of microscopic life. So that would be things like fungi, algae, bacteria. And essentially what they do is they digest organic matter. They break down, they eat the things in your garden and help break it down.
So we compost. Let's take it this way. You create a compost pile. You break it down. The soil turns from food scraps into black compost. You now work that compost into your native soil or in a raised bed, whatever the case is. And there's microbes inside of that compost already. There's microbes already in the native soil, and they continue to break down that compost, which to the naked eye appears to be completely usable, but they break it down to a form in which the plant can actually pick up and use it. It's like a digestive system for your plant.
Right.
It allows the plant to pick up those nutrients that otherwise are locked in the soil, unable to be used by the plant.
Right. So here's a fun fact. Each
Okay.
gram of soil, which a gram of soil is about the weight of a paper clip, if you're trying to kind of figure what a gram is.
Because we're Americans, we don't know what metric is. So yeah.
Well, that would not be grams.
Oh, grams is okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Anyway, okay, so
One
weight of a
paper clip weight of
this
soil.
That 1 gram of soil contains anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million different microbes, living microbes.
In
so
1
gram.
gram, that many microbes.
Right.
Now, okay.
I think a gram is like a sugar cube. So
Okay.
if you remember sugar cubes, that's like a gram.
It's a good reference of how much
Right.
soil how little soil there is, and how many microbes.
Yes.
And there's not just one species of microbes. There's thousands of different types of microbial life in the
Right.
soil. Okay.
And so microbes move around, like not literally, but animals, water, insects, air will move the microbes around.
They can travel
Right.
by being attached or being a carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But they're usually fine where they are too, but they can travel.
So basically, the microbes are the life system of everything we know,
Yeah.
plant-wise.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about how do we know if we have enough microbes, or what do we need to do in order to help the microbial life in our soil?
Well, it depends. If you think you have poor soil, so that would be like compacted soil, sandy soil, clay soil. Basically, that means that there's not enough microbes in your soil, so you can't really add microbes, but you can add compost tea, manure tea. Just kind of like when you add compost to your garden, it invites the worms in. If you add it to your...
You can add microbial bacteria.
Right.
And Plant Success is one of the sponsors, and they have a lot of those different levels of microbial items that can be added to your garden, your container, the root system of your plant.
That's the mycorrhizae.
The mycorrhizae, which feeds the microbial
Right.
life. Yeah.
So, yeah, it contains mycorrhizae.
We're talking about
bacteria.
the Plant Success products that sponsor the program. This will help the microbial life in your soil.
So, yeah, so what you do is you mix it with some water, and then you spray it onto your soil.
And it feeds, and it's a boost. Now with the Plant Success stuff, it's in a container, and you don't want that container to get too hot because heat can kill that stuff. And essentially the food for the microbial life.
Right.
So you got to be aware of that.
There's also probiotics in your soil, which probiotics just like are good for us. I'm sure you've heard the word probiotics. It seems to be a hot word over the last few days. It's good bacteria, essentially. Just like as we know, like probiotics exist in fermented foods like yogurt and kombucha. Same thing for your soil. I'm not saying you should dump kombucha into your soil, but it does exist there. It's because there is somewhat of a fermentation process going on.
Now let's talk about if we don't. The way to build the microbial life in your soil is to add good compost, which has the microbial life in it, and that helps with the native soil or in a container in a raised bed. But there also are beneficial aspects of using microbial life to fix soil that is not healthy. in regards to, I'm not talking about if your soil has old gasoline in it or old oil or lead in it, but what I'm talking about is the man-made chemicals. You can use microbial life to reverse that bad soil into good soil over a period of time.
Right, so basically that's called bioremediation.
Joe Lampo,
Right.
host of Growing a Greener World on PBS, who was a guest on our program a couple of weeks ago, he had this problem in his raised beds.
Right. So what happened is that he took his horse manure and he put it on his raised beds.
Which was composted,
Right.
which plants were growing out of. But the problem that he had, and he knew,
So what had happened was that the farmer sprayed the grass, where the horses were grazing, with a broadleaf herbicide.
which that kills the broadleaf weeds and allows the grass to grow, so you have a lush pasture, so you have a lush field of strictly grasses that you can mow and bale up and feed animal feed to, so you don't have the bad weeds. That's what that herbicide does for farmers.
Okay, so then the horses ate this grass that had the herbicide on it.
Perfectly okay for the
Perfectly
horses.
okay
Yeah,
for
the
the
horses
horses.
and animals, it doesn't affect them. What affects
So
is
then that went through their digestive system, which is not bad. Then they excreted it. Then if you use fresh horse manure, you can't use fresh horse manure. You have to use manure that's basically sat around for a while. Explain that.
aged
Yeah, aged. Thank you, aged. And so it aged. This horse
for a
manure
year.
went
It's,
through the
it sat there for a year.
went through the horses, excreted it, sat for a year. Then he put it on his raised beds. So this is a strong herbicide. He went on his raised beds, and a few weeks later, after he planted some things,
Tomatoes, predominantly green beans, eggplants, the large leafed items, the leaves began to curl up, and the plants
peppers,
started.
beans, yeah. So, but some things did fine. Cucumbers, okra, herbs, chard beets, sweet potatoes, and watermelon did fine. And then ornamental annuals, like just, flowers or whatever, those did fine. But a lot of these other plants did not. So he was like, what's going on? And then he thought back to his process.
He knew that what had happened. He knew that he needed that this was a problem, but he wanted to get the raised beds filled, and he just, like anybody else, we get in a hurry. He put the 30 yards of compost in the raised beds, and then this happened. So bioremediation is what he used in order to reverse this. And this is all documented on growingarenaworld.com. You can just go to your favorite search engine and type in killer compost, and it documents all of this and his journey. But basically what he did
What he did, his friends and colleagues said, pull all that out, put new compost. But obviously that's going to take time. He's got 30 raised beds.
30 raised beds, 30 yards.
And then money too. Obviously that's an investment. So what he did is he let the plants grow that season. Then they broke down, and he turned the soil over to expose it to the air and the sun and the wind, and then he planted cover crops. So basically, it's in the microbes, excuse me, the microorganisms are going to break down those plants and do their little composting thing to help get rid of that herbicide.
The plants that he used sucked up some of that toxicity in the soil. The microbial life came in and broke down the rotting plants, and over a period of time, I think it was a several-year process that he was able to accelerate by doing this properly. He was able to reverse that problem that he had.
Right.
So you want to know where your source of compost, and we talked about this. We had a soundbite from him on one of the first 2 or 3 episodes, the second episode of the show back in March, where he was talking about what he had to do. So you always want to know your source of compost, your source of material, where it derived from. Just because you go to a farm and get some compost because it's free on a Saturday afternoon doesn't mean it's the best stuff in the world.
And so that's basically what it is. You don't want to use manure or even hay as mulch, because if you don't know what chemicals were used in that field.
If it was completely 100% God-made organic, it's fine. But we don't always know where this stuff has come from. And just because it's free doesn't mean it's great.
Exactly. So if you are using manure, which I don't know how many city people use manure, but you never know. If you know somebody that has
it's a great compost.
It is a great compost, yes. But we're just saying. But hey, so you can use straw as mulch, but the hay is what's the concern.
Yeah, because that will leach into the soil potentially. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about something that we can all participate in, whether we are gardeners, know a gardener, or don't care about gardening, and that's how we can be more zero waste conscious when we come back right after this.
Have a gardening question? Email Joey and Holly at twvgradio@gmail.com.
Beans and Barley Market and Cafe, a neighborhood specialty grocery store for the east side and greater Milwaukee area, where you can find all you need, from fresh produce to bakery to organic frozen dinners, from wine to fresh squeezed carrot juice. A health food store with hundreds of products, vitamins, supplements, bath and body items, magazines, cards, books, and a knowledgeable staff. Catering available, open daily at 8 a.m. The restaurant serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week with a menu of good, healthy homemade food, including vegetarian and non-vegetarian specialties. 1901 East North Avenue, Milwaukee, 414-278-7878, and online at beansandbarley.com. Mycorrhizae is a beneficial fungus from PlantSuccess.com that will greatly increase your plant's germination ability and a healthier root structure. You can increase seed sprouting, root growth, and general plant germination. Mycorrhizae can be used with hydroponics, root cutting, seed sprouting, coco coir, and soil. PlantSuccess.com carries powder, granule, and tablet forms of mycorrhizae. Increase the level of mycorrhizae in your soil for your plants to give them the optimal opportunity to produce an incredible harvest. For more information and to purchase, visit PlantSuccess.com.
The River West Co-op Grocery and Cafe is proud to support the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and a lot of other Wisconsin growers as well. The co-op offers a wide range of local and organic produce in their store and on their cafe menu, from apples to yogurt and everything in between. Open 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. weekdays, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. weekends at the corner of Clark and Frackney in Milwaukee's River West neighborhood. See what is in store and check out the Co-op Cafe's delicious vegetarian menu at riverwestcoop.org.
Hi, I'm John Lewandowski, retail manager of Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. Now, I'm not going to tell you about our awesome dome-grown plants, our beautiful pottery, or our 40 varieties of landscape materials. What I am going to tell you is that Blue Mel's is a local, independent, family-owned garden center that truly cares about your garden or landscape project. So if you're looking for that one garden center that actually cares about you, come to Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. We've been treating our customers like family since 1955.
Blue Mel's 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. So happy you've joined us today on the program. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your destination for over 1,000 plus garden videos, more added each week, as well as in-studio video, podcast, full-length shows here, as well as segments, and that can be found on the radio tab and the highlight tab on the main page. So if you missed anything over the last 28 shows, it's all captured right there. You can review it, learn, and enjoy it, as well as enjoy some fresh peaches that have been drove here, or will be drove here, as well as blueberries, and then in the winter, citrus from tree-ripe.com.
If you like fresh produce delivered right to your neighborhood, you should check out Tree Ripe Citrus Company. You can find out where to pick up the top quality produce from tree-ripe.com. They have tasty peaches, sweet juicy blueberries, the freshest citrus, and very delicious, fresh and tasty.
Yeah.
They come right to a stop in your neighborhood, fresh off the truck, right from the source. For location and schedules, visit tree-ripe.com. They have locations all over, including Iowa and Upper and Lower Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, and right here in Wisconsin. Tree-ripe.com is your go-to for the freshest produce around.
Well, Holly, let's change topics here and go to zero waste. Obviously, unless you live in the woods somewhere in the middle of nowhere, you're going to have some form of waste. And we're talking about material waste. Obviously, human, that's a whole other thing. But I want to make,
if you have zero waste as a human, I think that's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's talk about what being more zero waste, or what does zero waste mean?
It just means reducing what you're throwing away.
Or in some instances, being aware of what you're consuming as a consumer and where that trash is going whether recycling bin, trash bin, burn pile, whatever, because everything that you do has a domino effect. It affects other things. Whether, even though you think, oh, it's just me, I'm the only one doing it, it has a trickle down effect.
Right, and many people I don't think realize that when they're taking the trash out, it doesn't just go away. It's going to a landfill, and landfills take up land and resources and everything else. And yes, it's good that people have jobs at the landfill. That's obviously good, but we need to think about, as we grow as a population, how many people are on this planet and how much waste we are creating.
And the landfills create, methane gas, which gets
Right.
burnt off. It doesn't, there's some landfills utilize that as a product in which you can heat your homes and all that, but some don't because of it's just cheaper to burn it off. But let's talk about here, and we're not, and don't take it that we are zero waste people, because we are not. We have a trash can, we have a dumpster, stuff goes in the dumpster every day. We're not perfect.
No, but we are conscious of it. And
stuff
and
goes
we try. And that's the thing, is maybe just make one change. And we'll talk about some changes that you can make. And then maybe you make one change now, and next year maybe you make another change, or in a couple months, and just try something out.
Right. We look at items. Can it be recycled? Is it a paper product? Can be recycled? That's one pile. Is it a metal product or aluminum product? Can it go to the recycling facility, which they pay you money for? Small amount, but it's something. Or does it have to be actually put in the trash to go to the landfill?
Right,
That's our
one
criteria.
way.
Yeah.
But now applying these into your everyday life. So
Okay.
this would include things. Let's just qualify this as the kitchen. So one would be to consider using less paper towels. Use a lot of people just are quick to grab the paper towels. Now you can get these paper towels that are half a sheet. Think about how much you're using. Use reusable rags, earth-friendly sponges, things like that.
Now, obviously, there's limitations to that. You probably don't want to use a towel if you're cleaning up cat problems or baby problems.
Obviously.
But people are like, well, you're going to go to the extreme, and that's not where we're going.
No.
You got to be common sense about this.
Whatever you feel comfortable with, definitely. Pack your lunch in reusable sandwich bags, reusable containers. Glass is typically best, but if you don't feel good using the glass, you can certainly use plastic, but the point is the reusable.
And the next one is buy in bulk, but you got to be smart about buying in bulk here.
Right, but one thing I want to mention
go ahead.
is think about your water bottle. You can get a water filter and have a reusable water bottle. Or on the very least, if you're buying bottled water for yourself or your home, recycle those bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And also your coffee cup. A lot of times these coffee shops will give you 10 cents off or something.
Even gas stations.
Yeah, even gas stations will give you a discount if you use your own reusable, like say like a regular cup of coffee is $1.60 or something. If you bring your own, it's like 99 cents.
Yeah, if you're going to drink a lot of coffee, makes sense. So we're going to talk about bulk buying here. We can buy in bulk. It does save money, but you don't want to go crazy about it. Oh, I bought all this in bulk. I'll probably use it up in the next 8 years. You don't want to be that type of buying in bulk.
But if, say like, as we talked about last week, we talked about food waste.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like rice a lot. We don't eat a lot of rice, but sometimes I want some rice for a soup or a recipe. So I go to the bulk section and I figure out how much rice I need. And maybe it's a slightly more cost, but it's generally not. And that way I have the exact amount of rice that I need for that recipe.
So, yeah. And then, if you're doing a recipe that needs some one-off type of ingredient, you can find some of those specialty items in the bulk bin, so you don't have to buy 9 pounds of turmeric if you only need 2 tablespoons of it, type of thing.
Definitely. So
I don't think they have 9 pounds of turmeric, but the big bag that'll sit there for years.
Yeah. So that's something to think about too. Think about what you're purchasing and how you could maybe purchase it a little bit.
Now I like number 4, which is shop secondhand, and that doesn't mean I'm poor and I have to buy cheap. That's not what that means. Shopping secondhand is a very environmentally friendly and money-saving technique, especially when you have kids.
Right. Yeah. If you can buy there's a lot of rummage sale groups on Facebook where I've even found a lot of stuff for my niece and nephew on there. Perfectly fine clothes that were just gently used.
Or not even used at all.
Sometimes, even ourselves, we might buy something you get a good deal on it. You maybe wear it once, and you're like, I'm never probably going to wear this again. And you take it, to the thrift store or wherever, and there's some really nice stuff. I found a sweater at, I don't know where, some thrift store, some secondhand store with tags on it still.
Probably
And it was
never
like-
been worn.
Like a $30 sweater for like $3.
Yeah.
So you'd be surprised what you can find. So yeah, definitely look at secondhand. Take care of your clothes. So, make sure you're washing them properly. If you have just a hole in something, you don't have to have a huge sewing kit, just mend it.
And maybe you don't know how to sew, and there's maybe a lot of people that don't. But find a grandma or a grandpa somewhere. They will know, or they will know somebody who knows how to sew.
Tutorial will show you how to fix things.
But
too.
you may have grandma and grandpa, or somebody's grandma and grandpa will have the tools and the equipment they'll need to fix that real quick.
I used to have a coworker that would staple the bottom of her pants when they started to tear. So you could get quite creative, but you might not want to you might want to be careful because staples
that
are
doesn't
kind
look
of
very
dangerous.
good at a business meeting anyway.
It worked.
Right.
How many people are looking at the hem of your pants?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, okay.
What's another one we can be more zero waste conscious about?
Yeah, so you want to bring your own lunch. And obviously, some people don't like that, and that's understandable, but it definitely does. Well, first of all, it saves you money, but it also reduces a lot of trash.
It's probably healthier, too, in most aspects, whenever you bring your own lunch.
Right. And if you don't like your coworkers, then just go eat in your car.
Yeah. I guess you can do that, too. Go digital. Let's talk about that one.
Well, a lot of
it's
offices,
2017. Who's not digital? There's a few people, but
right. But there's a lot of offices that people are just quick to print things out and hand them out, and all of a sudden, now, one memo that was probably only valid for maybe 12 hours is now, if people don't properly recycle it, is now in the trash.
And people will look at the bottom of the email, and it says, "Think before you print." And people, okay, yeah, I'll print it. Also, now we make light of that, but a lot of stores now are accepting coupons that you pull up on your phone.
Yeah.
That when you go to the checkout.
And there's apps. So there's apps now too. Like some stores will have a specific app that you can use the coupons, or there's some specific apps themselves that you can use to get discounts.
So you don't have to clip, you don't have to print, you can just pull it up and save it on your phone, and it's just as good as the old time paper coupon.
And some of them have scanners. Like it has it uses your camera. So if you're putting items into the cart, you can scan them real quick to see if there's a coupon for it.
Okay, so you can get the most out of it.
Right.
Take 5 minutes extra during your trip, save some money on that. Anything else we want to add towards the being more zero waste here?
Just think about things in the bathroom. Maybe you can make, not necessarily make all of your own cosmetics, but you can do things like simplify your cleaning supplies. White vinegar is a really great cleaner. We've talked about this with some of our guests. You can also make your own cosmetics, something like
a scrub, a face cleaner.
Like a face cleaner. Yeah. Or, moisturizer, things like that. Just kind of get creative.
Yeah, and there's a lot of organic and health information online in which you can do that there's websites dedicated for
You can even make
that.
your own toothpaste.
Yeah, baking soda and...
coconut oil, and you can use some essential oil, so you put some peppermint in there, so it's got your minty freshness for you.
There you go. So hopefully that'll enlighten you to help you out to be a little more zero waste and save you some money along the way. Well, another place where you can save money, investing in a good piece of equipment for your lawn, whether for this year or getting ready for next year, and that's Aaron's, and they can help you with that and make your lawn beautiful again.
Do you hear that? That's to your neighbors shaking in their grass-stained shoes, because Aaron's is about to help you step up your grass-cutting game. Your name is on the mailbox, so Aaron's name should be on your mower. Heavy-duty steel construction, smarter, smoother controls, professional cutting performance. The only thing we love more than the smell of freshly cut grass is the sweet taste of victory. Aaron's, it comes down to this. Visit aarons.com to find your local lawn and snow removal dealer for removal equipment.
When we come back, garden speaker, author from Madison, Wisconsin, Megan Cain will be with us right after this.
Tweet Joey and Holly using hashtag TWVG.
Oh, yeah. What you say? You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala kombucha makes your body happy. Nasala kombucha makes your body smile.
Garden seeds do not have to cost a fortune. Just 99 cents at migardener.com. With over 300 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, and organic flower, vegetable, and herb seeds available year-round, pay less and get more seeds. Shipping as low as $2.50. That just makes sense. Go to migardener.com for seeds and gardening needs, tools, and special blend fertilizer. migardener.com. It's that simple. Family owned and operated. Do you have a problem with deer or small herbivores eating your vegetation? There is a natural solution that is safe for your pets and family. Bobex is the answer. An environmentally friendly solution to protect your plants, will not wash off, and is guaranteed. Bobex Deer was independently tested against 9 known competitors and rated 93% effective, second only to a physical barrier. Bobex can be used on all types of ornamentals, trees, and shrubs. Ask for it by name at your local independent garden center. Find out more, visit bobex.com. BOBBEX.com.
Eating natural and organic is not as expensive as it used to be, especially when you shop at Woodman's. They have aisles full of certified organic food, from fruits and vegetables to dairy products and even meat, all at great prices. They even have a huge selection of wheat-free and gluten-free items. I can come to Woodman's and get everything I need all under one roof. My name is Alicia, and I shop at Woodman's.
Back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show right here on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. Meg and Cain coming up in moments, but first we have a question on the ivorganics.com 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline. Caller, you're on the air. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead.
The question is, what could I do for squirrels? Because every time I have a garden, they destroy it. And then, they just keep everything all messed up.
Well, there's a couple of ways in which you can deal with the squirrel problem. One is you can use chili powder and sprinkle around the plants or the area in which you're trying to get in or destroying, because that chili powder they'll ingest in their nose and they'll burn it, and they don't like that. You can also use Bobex, which is a animal repellent spray you can find online or typically at independent garden centers. What else you got, Holly?
I would say a fence, but they'll go over that fence, so that's not going to work. If there's a particular plant that they like, though, the chili powder is effective, or just around the whole garden is effective as well, and it's a pretty cheap solution. And
we will we'll ask Megan that question as well when she comes on in just a few minutes and get her opinion as a professional gardener on what she would recommend as well. We appreciate your question, and we appreciate the official garden center of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which today at about 10:30 we will be out there for their 7th annual fall customer appreciation, where they'll have their fall pumpkins and gourds and kale and bulbs and brats and mums, and you'll have free food there. You can walk the facility to see what they have available for fall, as well as they do lawn. They do lawn care, and you can get an estimate on what that would cost for next year. So you don't have to do anything. They would just
landscaping.
Landscaping. They got the whole deal. So we will be out there at 10:30. Hopefully, we will see you. Enjoy a free meal. See the premises.
So you can find out more at bluemills.com. You can call 414-282-4220, or find them at 4930 West Loomis Road in Greenfield, just south of Layton.
And the official garden center of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Well, Holly, let's go to the ivorganics.com 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline and bring in our next guest. We're going to go to Madison, Wisconsin.
Megan Cain is a creative vegetable gardener in Madison. She is passionate about teaching others to be successful gardeners. She does this through her books and presentations. She's also extremely passionate about getting the whole community into gardening. Welcome to the program, Megan.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. I'll just jump right in. We had a caller right before you came on and asked about the ways to deter squirrels from destroying their plants in their garden. Every time they plant something, the squirrels come in and just have a heyday with it. We recommended Bob-X animal repellent as well as chili powder. Do you have any surefire ways besides getting rid of them by killing them to get them out of your garden?
Sure, yeah. I've noticed that they're particularly active in my garden this time of year. I think they're burying lots of nuts and things. So I've noticed that I use a lot of mulch, and I've noticed that a lot of the mulch has been disturbed. I would recommend, one thing I've had luck with is using row cover.
Okay.
So it's a light white fabric that I have used to keep rabbits out and squirrels. And I would suggest that, especially my experience is sometimes squirrels, once things are bigger, they don't really bother them. So I don't know if they're particularly having problems with things that are young and maybe they're digging up. But row cover sometimes can help get things through that really young stage so that once the plants get older, my experience is sometimes the rabbits and the squirrels don't bother them as much. Okay. So that would be my suggestion.
Definitely. So you garden in the front yard in your Madison home. Many cities have restrictions against this. How do you make that work?
Yeah, I do. So we, when we bought our house, you could not see the house from the street. It was so overgrown with lots of shrubs, weedy shrubs, and other things. But we realized that was one of the sunniest parts of the property. So we removed all the overgrowth, and then all of a sudden you could see our house. Our neighbors were certainly surprised all of a sudden that they could see that there was a house there. So one thing that we did, we knew that we wanted to have a front yard garden, and we purposely picked a neighborhood that we knew wouldn't be a big deal if we had a front yard garden. So certainly there are more manicured neighborhoods in Madison than where we live. So that's one thing that we looked into. Pick a neighborhood where we knew we didn't have to have a perfectly manicured yard, because we never do. I like to call ours a working yard. We chop firewood and we grow food, and we just have a lot of stuff going on in our yard. So that's one thing that we did. But for Madison, they're often more concerned about sight lines. So if you are growing really tall things, so once in a while people that have prairie gardens, maybe between their house and the street or near the curb, if there's cars that can't see, so maybe if you have a garden that's right next to a driveway and people are pulling out and they can't see, that's often what Madison is concerned about. I think they often also kind of run on neighborhood complaints. So if you have neighbors that are complaining about your yard, then the city's going to come out and talk to you. But in general, if your neighborhood's okay with it, it seems like they leave you alone.
Okay. You developed one of the first youth garden programs in Madison. For our listeners, for some of them who might want to think about doing a community garden, and we always encourage that, what was some of the challenges that you faced, and some advice you can give people who want to do something similar, whether in Milwaukee or wherever they're listening throughout the country?
Sure. So it's true that some youth gardens are attached to schools. Some youth gardens, the one where I worked, it was actually part of a community garden land. It was really land trust that was run by a nonprofit, and there was a big community garden there and then a separate kids garden. So I think first is kind of decide what youth do you want to serve? Are you going to serve? Do you want to be attached to a school where the students come out during the school day and then work in the garden, and the teachers can integrate some of the gardening stuff into their curriculum? Or do you want to have a kids garden at maybe a community center, and then the kids that come to the community center are going to come out into the garden? Do you want it to be a part of a community garden where maybe the kids of families that come to the community garden can also access the kids garden? So I think that's the first step, is kind of become clear on what kids you want to serve and get involved. You can also get kids involved in your own front yard or side yard or backyard garden. I have my next door neighbor is 6 years old, just turned 7, and we've become good friends because of her interest in my garden. So now she worked with me for the first year. This year she has her own garden bed, and she decided what she wanted to plant in there. So you can also do it a little bit more informally and just get some of the kids in your neighborhood involved in your garden by inviting them to be a part of it. And you can teach kids that way. So one of the I think a big challenge of school gardens especially is that the kids aren't there during the height of the gardening season, which is the summer. And so a lot of schools have trouble finding people to take care of the garden when school's not in session. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Are there going to be kids around all year round? And if not, what's your plan to take care of the garden in those off times when the kids aren't present?
Definitely makes sense. So you like to preserve food without canning. Why don't you like canning, and what are some ways to preserve your food without canning?
Yeah, so my first experience with gardening actually and food preserving was when I went and I was an intern at a farm. And I had never gardened before. I didn't know anyone that gardened. I didn't do any food preserving. And the way that I learned to food preserve was canning. And then I left there, eventually moved to Madison, had my own garden, kept doing lots of canning, and I realized that I personally didn't really like it that much. For me, I feel like it takes a lot of time, and you have to have a critical mass of vegetables often to make it worth it. A lot of times I felt like my kitchen was extremely messy at the end of a long canning session, and then you have to do a lot of cleanup. So I started to look for some other ways that I could preserve food. And the methods that I like to use are really fresh, fridge, and freezer. So if at all possible, I store food fresh in my basement. So that would be things like onions and garlic and winter squash and sweet potatoes. So then they don't need any processing at all, usually just some drying and curing. I just put 4 crates of onions down in my basement yesterday to get ready for fall and winter. And then I also use my fridge. So there's a few things like carrots and beets that can store really well in your fridge for many, many months. So I usually grow a fall crop of beets and carrots. I have both of those in my garden right now. I leave them in the garden as long as possible. But then before the ground freezes, I dig them up, and then I store them in my fridge all winter long. We've often still been eating stored beets and carrots into April and May of the following year. And then the third method I use is a chest freezer. So I like to freeze a lot of different things. There's some things like peppers that don't need any processing. You don't have to steam them or blanch them or anything. You can just freeze them raw. Just chop them up, remove the seeds, throw them in some freezer containers, and throw them in the freezer. And then there's some other things like broccoli that benefit from a little bit of steaming or blanching before you put them in the freezer. But I find that's a pretty easy and quick way to preserve a lot of vegetables, and you don't really need a large quantity. If you end up with a few extra peppers, you can just chop them up, throw them in a bag, and then put them in your freezer. So those are my 3 preserve methods. We do one canning session a year where we can our own salsa because we really like to have that on hand throughout the winter and spring.
All right. We live in similar climates or similar zones, Milwaukee and Madison. What are some challenging vegetables that you have found that you've had difficulty growing in your zone, and how have you overcome it, or have you overcome those challenges with those difficult vegetables?
Well, I think sometimes the difficulty depends on the year. So I grow a lot of sweet peppers. I love growing red peppers and yellow peppers and orange peppers. And usually I have no problem. It's really successful. But this year I got some kind of bacterial infection, and I had to rip up 35 pepper plants, which was very painful. So some of it is year to year. Maybe there's a particular pest that's more prolific on one year, or I happen to get a disease that I never got before. So sometimes it just depends year to year. Overall, I would say I struggle with Brussels sprouts. Right now, the actual Brussels sprouts are so tiny. I usually, last year I tried to chop off the top of the plant to have it stop growing and then focus on creating bigger Brussels sprouts, and that seemed to work pretty well. So I did that again this year. Let's see, other things I have. Well, I would say there's things I don't grow because I find them to be too difficult or too much, I don't know, they need too much special attention. Melons is one of those things. A lot of the growers in my area use black plastic to grow melons, and they take up a lot of room, so I decided I'm not going to grow them in my garden. I'll just buy them from the farmer's market. let's see. Winter squash I don't usually grow because the same thing, it takes up a lot of room. I was just looking at, I have grown sweet potatoes the last couple of years, which I've had good success with, but I haven't had the best success with trying to cure them because they like to be cured at very high temperatures, around 90 degrees. And by the time I harvest my sweet potatoes, which is around this time of year, this year being the exception where it is 85 degrees today, we usually don't have those high temperatures, and so I'm about to harvest my sweet potatoes again. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I create those conditions so that I cure them properly? Because last year I didn't really do that, and I lost a lot of sweet potatoes because I didn't cure them properly. So yeah, those are kind of the ones that I struggle with, but I like to remind gardeners that even when you've been gardening a long time and you know a lot about gardening, there's still years where things happen and you don't know why, and you do everything the way you did it the following year and you had success. And there's a certain amount of mystery in gardening, which I think keeps it exciting, but can also be frustrating for newer gardeners who I think often blame themselves and not knowing that sometimes things just happen in the garden and you're not even sure why.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us about your books and where to find you?
Sure. My business is the Creative Vegetable Gardener, so people can find me at creativevegetablegardener.com. I have a blog. You can sign up for my email list. I usually send out one email a week on Sunday mornings with a timely gardening topic. And then I've written 2 books, one about easy food preserving, which you can also find on my website, and it's also on Amazon. And then I wrote another book that just came out this past winter on garden planning. It's called Smart Start Garden Planning. I've learned over the years that the most successful gardeners are really people that have some sort of plan and idea of what they're going to do for the season. So it's kind of walking people through the process of figuring out what you want to grow and evaluating different vegetables to see if they're worth it to grow in your garden, and how to order seeds and varieties that I recommend. So that was a fun one to write, and trying to encourage people to don't wait until the first nice day in spring to start thinking about your gardening. Really just try to come up with even just a really simple plan before the season begins. So both of those can be found on my website and then also on Amazon as well.
Well, Megan, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join Holly, myself, and our listeners and sharing some of your garden wisdom with all of us.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be back.
Thank you, Megan.
And we'll be right back after this with your garden questions and our garden answers.
Have a gardening question? You can call into the ivorganic.com hotline at 414-444-5250 right now.
Hotchin Mill, 125 years of experience producing stone ground organic flour and cornmeal made from premium quality whole grains. Family-owned company, continual standards that are non-GMO, organic at the highest safety levels, offering a wide variety of flours, pasta, baking mixes, flaxseed, and more, even kosher and gluten-free options. Found at most local grocers like Woodman's. For more information and recipes, visit hotchinmill.com. That's HODGSONMILL.com.
The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants, to multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds. Rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit rootmaker.com.
Do you have a little space to grow? Check out Greenstock Vertical Gardens at greenstockgarden.com. Greenstock is engineered to grow with its innovative space and water-saving design. You can grow vegetables, flowers, herbs, and even strawberries in just 2 square feet of space. Grow up instead of out. Perfect for the porch, patio, or deck. Grow up to 30 plants in a small space. GreenstockGarden.com has everything you need to grow in the littlest of spaces. Proudly made in the USA. For more information and to purchase, visit greenstockgarden.com.
I want a garden center that listens to and understands my needs.
I want to buy my gardening products from a local business with strong ties to the community.
All I want is a garden center that truly values their customers.
It seems like everyone is selling plants these days, but I'm having a hard time finding quality.
I take pride in my garden, so I want my garden center to take pride in their products.
Where will you be going for all of your gardening needs this season? Blue Mel's Garden Center.
We are your answer.
Blue Mills, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show.
Well, if I know so much, how come I ain't rich?
Some of the wealthiest people are the ones with the least amount of money, Mike.
Oh, can I write that down?
Yeah, that's yours. You can use that.
With your hosts, Joey and Hallie Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your destination for all things gardening: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and a whole lot more, and 1,000+ videos. You can email us there. You can email us at twvgradio@gmail.com. You can tweet us using hashtag TWVG. You can also call into the ivorganics.com hotline if you've got a question right now.
IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields pruning damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, visit ivorganics.com. You can call into 414-444-5250. And we have a comment.
We had a number of questions, comments come in on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and email this week. And one was in reference to last week's main topic about last week's topic, food waste in America.
Right. So they said they're so glad we covered the sad but very important subject of food waste in this country. I'm appalled at how sellers in the U.S. feel that we as consumers will only purchase produce that looks absolutely perfect, and they've been very efficient at programming us as customers to only buy the perfect food. A while ago, I had a part-time job working at a natural food store when I saw the store owner tossing out whole heads of cabbage and lettuces because the outer leaves had a few blemishes. I asked why those outer leaves couldn't just be removed instead of wasting the food. I got a very scathing look in my direction, but no answer to my question. After a few weeks of witnessing this blatant waste of whole, healthy, organic produce, I quit. I couldn't watch anymore without saying something, which ultimately got me in hot water. Great show.
There you go. What type? So there you go, and that's not just her. That's across the whole gamut of commercial growing grocery stores. For the most part, if it's blemished, they throw it out, and you can find documentaries on this on the internet about people going into dumpsters after hours and digging this food out, and it's perfectly fine. That's how some of these people live. What do you call it? Not dumpster divers, but
recycling.
Recycling,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So another question is,
what kind of kale do we grow?
We grow what is called, well, it's not the scientific term, but it's called dinosaur kale, as well as curly kale, and we have grown some Russian red kale before. So those are the three varieties that we grow. We prefer the curly kale.
I like dinosaur kale.
The dinosaur kale is the second there, but that's what we grow, and we've got some growing right now. It's not as much as we'd like, but it's doing very, very well.
What is the variety of bush beans you are growing? So we have Blue Lake bush beans, Jade, Black Valentine, Bush Top Crop bean, and Bush Strike, Bush Royal Burgundy. I remember one time during a talk we were asked which bush beans are typical to the ones that you buy in the can at the store, and that would be the Blue Lake.
The Blue Lake, yeah. Very predominant, very heavy producer. Now, all those were from MI Gardner. Last week, talked about the sale. Don't worry about going there anymore. The store is completely sold out now. All 100 varieties that was left are gone. So hopefully, maybe you've got some, but don't worry about it. In November, they're bringing in 450 varieties of new seeds, so that store will be open and going again with 150 more varieties, 150 more varieties than they have ever had before. So what I'd say, I watched your canning video on making pear sauce or applesauce, pear applesauce is what the title was. You used a food mill. I don't have a food mill. Do I need a food mill or do I need to peel the pears or apples before I make them into pear sauce? First of all, let's talk about what a food mill is.
So a food mill is, you can describe it.
It's a device.
It's like it's got a hopper, and then you put the stuff in there and you crank the thing, and it's got an auger, and it separates basically the meat of the fruit or whatever from the peel.
That's what it's doing. It's a very easy process. It's a nice investment. You can just search food mills and you'll understand what that is. But it's a very quick process to create sauce or a juice from your produce.
Right. But no, for apples and pears, you do not need to peel them. Before we had that food mill, what I would do is I would chop them. I put them in my food processor without peeling them. And then I would just pulse it until they became a, basically like an applesaucey mush. And then I would cook it down into whatever consistency I wanted.
So unlike tomatoes, leaving the skins on pears and apples does not affect the texture or the flavor.
No.
But tomatoes, you have to remove those.
Right.
Because
otherwise tomato skins get rubbery when you can them.
Okay.
So if I wanted to plant onions specifically to produce seed, I assume I would plant sets and simply let them grow out.
Well, you would there's a difference here. There's two types of ways in which you can grow your onions, and this is, you want to first get the type of onion that is good for your area. We're in a long day onion area in the United States. Central United States is neutral, and southern is short day onions. You would prefer the onions are biannual, so if all goes well, whether you're growing from sets or starts are the little bulbs. Sets are the little bulb-like onions that you buy at the store in early spring. Sets are the bulbs. Starts are the actual little plants that you're going to buy and plant. If all goes well, your onion is going to take 2 years in order to produce seed, unless it's severely stressed the first year. They're biennials. If you buy the little onion bulblet and plant that bulblet has a more higher probability going to seed than the actual little plant, because those little onion bulbs were planted this time of year. They'll be harvested in about 2 months, bagged up, shipped to your garden center so you have it available in March and April of next year, somewhere in that time frame. And then you plant it. And that onion bulb thinks, oh, it's my second year of growing, I will produce a seed pod. So we don't recommend the sets. We recommend the actual little plants. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So if your onions are going to seed almost yearly because you're growing them from the little onions bulbs, that's the reason why, because those onion bulbs are thinking it's its second year of growing. So you want to go with the actual plant transplant, or actually start from seed like we did and had phenomenal success. You can find that on our website. There is no, this was a comment that came in the form of a question, there is no need to add lemon juice or citrus acid to tomatoes. They're already acidic, correct?
That's not necessarily true. Tomatoes have changed over time, so their acidity levels cannot guarantee that they are acidic enough. So you want to keep that in mind that, yes,
there are some canners that, this is the way I've done it for X amount of years. I'm not changing.
But as things have changed over time, depending on where you get the tomatoes, what type of variety. So unless you want to get out your little litmus kit and test the base or the acidity of your tomatoes, it's just, you better be safe than sorry and add some acid.
So with that being said, you're always welcome to send us a question at twvgradio@gmail.com. You can, if you don't remember that, you can just go to our website, the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener .com, and there's a big question button, big red button on the right-hand side of the main page. You can find that information. The sponsors make this show possible each and every week, just like Nasala Kombucha.
Nasala Kombucha is the executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because if it's not Nasala Kombucha, it's not kombucha. For more information, you can find out more at nasala.com.
Programming note, join us next week where we're going to be talking about seed saving, how easy it is, what's going to be good to save, what's best just to buy new next year, as well as what went wrong with our tomatoes this year. We planted about 85 tomatoes, and
just sad.
There's like 5 or 6
tomatoes.
problems that we had with them, and we're going to go over all of them so you cannot have that problem next year. As well as we're going to talk with a fermentation expert next week, Jane Campbell. She is also an author about fermentation. Miss any portion of this program or want to revisit in its entirety, you can find that under the radio tab on the main page of the website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, for full-length in-studio video and full-length podcast. Or if you just want a specific interview or segment, find that underneath the highlight tab on the main page, underneath the highlight portion on the big box on the right-hand side. Until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.